Hello students, in my previous lecture I discussed George Bernard Shaw's plays, gave a brief introduction about George Bernard Shaw, flourishing of the problem plays, influence of Ibsen on Shaw's plays. I also discussed that in 1898, when we have a collection of plays by G.B. Shaw, plays pleasant, unpleasant, we find some prominent themes discussed by G.B. Shaw. Plays Pleasant, for example, where Arms of the Man was published in 1894. Maybe you have studied it at UG level. It's a parody of military heroism. Similarly, a play You Never Can Tell, published in 1897, is an critique on the authority of parents. Now, in the group of plays Unpleasant, we have Widowers' Houses, which discusses the problem of slums. Now, Mrs. Warren's Profession, which is also a part of this collection, is on the economic basis of modern prostitution. Now, in my previous lecture, I told you that how Henrik Ibsen influenced G.B. Shaw. Ibsen, who played an instrumental role in the development of the problem plays. Shaw shared Ibsen's idea about the stage as a powerful force for awakening people's social conscience. Now, Shaw developed what we call theatre of ideas, drama of ideas, because he wanted to force his audience to face the reality of unpleasant events. Now, when we say Shavian drama, it's a type of politically, socially committed drama, which we can also call discussion play or thesis play. Now, when we discuss G.B. Shaw, and when we come to some important features of Shavian plays, we find that in his plays the purpose was not so much to make people laugh, but to make them realize the hypocrisy and the absurdity of some prejudices and attitudes. Debate is one main feature of discussion plays. This gives mental and intellectual action. Now, in his plays, conflict of passions is deliberately replaced by conflict of thoughts and ideas. Dialogues in his plays are vigorous, brilliant, rich in wit. Paradoxes are there, puns are there. Now, these are those points actually which I discussed in my previous video. Now, coming to his most important play, Pygmalion, which is prescribed in your course. Now, Pygmalion is a mythological figure, and this play derives its source and sustenance from that mythological figure. Before coming to the play, I would like to share some important pieces of information with you. Maybe you are familiar with the name of Ovid. Now, Ovid was a Roman poet who lived during the reign of King Augustus. He was a contemporary of Virgil and Horace. And whenever we discuss three canonical poets of Latin literature, we always mention the name of Ovid, the name of Virgil, and the name of Horace. Ovid wrote a narrative poem called Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis means books of transformations. It's a Latin narrative poem which is considered to be his magnum opus. This poem comprises of 11,995 lines. 15 books are there, and over 250 myths are discussed there. The poem chronicles the history of the world from its creation to the deification of Julius Caesar within a loose mythico-historical framework. Now, in book 10 of Ovid's Metamorphosis, we have the reference of Pygmalion. Pygmalion is a sculptor who carved a woman out of ivory. According to Ovid, after seeing the Prophetides prostituting themselves, Pygmalion declared that he was not interested in women, but then found his statue so beautiful and realistic that he fell in love with it. Now, another important situation which is discussed in this book, we have Aphrodite's festival day. Now, Aphrodite, before I discuss this Aphrodite festival day, let me tell you, I think maybe all of you are familiar with that Aphrodite is an ancient Greek goddess associated with love, beauty, pleasure, passion, and procreation. She is syncretized with Roman goddess Venus. So Aphrodite is an ancient Greek goddess associated with love. So now there in that book we have the reference of Aphrodite's festival day. When Aphrodite's festival day came and Pygmalion made offerings at the altar of Aphrodite, there too scared to admit his desire because he has already declared that he disdains women. He hates women. He is not interested in women. He quietly wished for a bride who would be the living likeness of my ivory girl. This was actually the line. He wanted to get married, but with the same kind of woman as he created in his statue. When he returned home, he kissed his ivory statue and found that its lips felt warm. That is, he found it animate. He kissed it again and found that the ivory had lost its hardness. I mean, the main reason was that Aphrodite had granted Pygmalion's wish. Pygmalion married the ivory sculpture, which changed to a woman under Aphrodite's blessing. This was actually the myth which has been discussed by Ovid in his narrative poem, Metamorphosis. Now, the title allusion of this play, Pygmalion, I have just discussed that it's a name of a mythological figure, a sculptor who hates all the women around him, but he creates a statue of his own ideal. He fell in love with this beautiful ivory woman. He calls it Galatea, Galatea. Galatea. Galatea means white like milk. And just as I have told you that Aphrodite, the goddess of love, gave life to the inanimate creation, Galatea awakens so that the artist can marry and be happy with his own creation. So this is actually the allusion which has been taken by J.B. Shaw in his play. Now in Shaw's play Pygmalion, a modern variant of the myth with a subtle hint of feminism. Feminism, if you're not familiar with, you will study it later on in your third and fourth semester. So this is a modern variant of the myth with a subtle hint of feminism. We have the description of the underclass, working class flower girl named Elijah Doolittle. Actually, she's metaphorically brought to life by a phonetics professor, Henry Higgins, who teaches her to refine her accent and conversation and otherwise conduct herself with upper class manners in social situations. I'll discuss it later on. This play got a lot of prominence and popularity. It inspired the film Pygmalion as well as the play My Fair Lady and the film My Fair Lady. Now the symbolism in the play has to do with Henry Higgins falling in love with his own creation. Now look at the similarity which you have just seen regarding the myth. What is the symbolism here? The symbolism in the play has to do with Henry Higgins's falling in love with his own creation. Elijah Doolittle was an uneducated cockney whom nobody could really understand when she spoke. Higgins, a professor of linguistics, believed he could train her to talk and act like a lady, and he then fell in love with his creation. This is actually the symbolism in the play Pygmalion. So in the next video, I'll discuss the important characters of Pygmalion and the major thematic issues discussed by G.B. Shaw in this play. Thank you.